Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. My name is Sarethne, and every episode of the Stand Up Speakeasy, I bring on a comic from the Central Time Zone, and eventually I'll branch out to more time zones and interview more comics. But this comic is out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he's one of the most requested comics on that I've interviewed with past guests, and I can't wait to interview him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Vaughn Veillon. Hey Vaughn, how are you?
Hey, Sarah. Good, good. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for being my guest today.
Yeah, no, glad to be here. Glad to be out to see what all the buzz was about.
Awesome, fantastic. It's a whole lot of fun during quarantine with this interview thing, and uh,
hmm
I majored in journalism, and so I thought, well, why don't I just do stand-up comedy journalism? It's like hardly anyone's doing it, and it's a lot of fun. So I get to meet cool comics all across the country with this thing. So
Yeah, and then you got time to try branch out and do all these different type of things. So yeah, no, that's awesome.
most definitely, indeed. So you've been performing stand-up for the past 6 years. What are some of your favorite memories from the past 6 years?
Well, I can tell you the most recent memory, which was yesterday. We had our weekly open mic at the station bar and grill over here in Baton Rouge. And the show was good. It was not nothing too out of the average. And then we're closing down, and then everyone's starting to leave. And then over at the bar, there were these two drunk dudes that one guy just walked over, and he's like, "Hey man, you were talking to my lady." And then just punched him in the face. And then they just started fist fighting in the bar when everyone's trying to leave. And then one of my good friends, Markel, he went in, did like a jujitsu freaking like submission hold, like brought the guy down. And yeah, and then they were starting to walk out, and then they ran into each other again, and then started fighting yet again. So yeah, and then actually my friend Morgan Wright, he actually tried to get in between the two of them, break up the fight, and ended up like dislocating his shoulder because of it. So, but yeah, I mean that was just a thing at a comedy show. But yeah, I mean I've been able to perform at a lot of great places in Lafayette. Some shows run by Jason Leonard over at the Beer Garden, where you just got 90 people packed out in their outdoor tent. God bless them, doing an outdoor show. And yeah, and it's just been hosting open mics for about 5 years now. So I've seen all the spectrum of very low, weird, and then super great. But yeah, there's one other thing that stands out is there's this one guy. His name is Trippin' Troy, who signs up at the Baton Rouge open mics sometimes. And one time, he came up on stage. He's wearing like sweatpants and just like a casual jacket, not pretty nondescript. And then just out of nowhere, I don't even know where it was, he pulled out a like 12-inch Bowie knife and then stabs the comedy bench, sticks it in the bench, and then he pulls out a retractable police baton and like extends it, and then just like places it on the bench, and then just keeps doing his set like he didn't just do that.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, it was something else. So now for the open mic, I always have the rule of having no weapons if you're going to do the show, because if there's a rule, there's a reason why that rule exists. So.
Indeed. Wow, that's pretty wild. I've only seen one fight break out at a comedy show, but man, I could only imagine like just people dislocating their arms and
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that dude, he had like blood on his face too from getting punched. So I was not expecting that at all.
Indeed, most definitely. And you've also done improv for the past 2 years too. And what do you like most about improv?
Improv, it's really it's one of those things where you just kind of like jump in, and you're forced to survive basically. It's just like you're in the moment. You got to come up with something. Yeah, no, I only started a couple of years ago, just kind of wasn't too experienced with it. But I like it. One of the biggest things I like about it is it's exercising comedy muscles, but it's like different comedy muscles than doing stand up. So yeah, I feel like it helps me become kind of more well rounded, and there's also just more comedy to do. So it's yeah, no, I've really have been enjoying that.
Indeed. And you started your comic career in Lafayette, Louisiana. I've interviewed some comics out of Lafayette, Louisiana, and so what was like your comic experience there?
Oh yeah, no, Lafayette was great. I went to college over in Lafayette. I went to UL. I did I was there for 6 years. Did undergrad and grad school. But, I started out when I was 19 years old. Is my spring semester, my freshman year, and I signed up for a singer songwriter open mic because I just asked my sister, who was like also in town at the time. I was like, "Hey, like, where do you even do comedy in town?" Because like I didn't even know. And she's like, "I think I've seen comedy at this one mic before," and so I signed up and was the only person doing comedy, and then did a full 15 minutes for my first time. And then right after that, I had one of the guys who ran a weekly actual comedy open mic. He messaged me on Facebook and he's like, "Hey, we do a show every Sunday." And then the rest was history. I just like started going to that every week, and then eventually, over like a year and a half or so, I ended up starting to run that open mic with one of my other friends and comics out in Lafayette, Maggie Shipley. Shout out to Maggie. Yeah, and it's been great. I've been doing shows with Jason Leonard, like helping him run things. I always have great showcases out there, and he's been able to bring in huge names like Tom Segura and Kyle Kinane and just a bunch of people. And I've even been able to open up for some people like Dave Stone and Ryan Singer and stuff. And one of the things I like the most about it is like I listened to those people when I was growing like in high school, growing up on like Pandora comedy stations, and then fast forward the clock a little bit, and then I'll be able to like be on the show with them and like meet them and stuff. And like I listen to you on my headphones as a 15-year-old. So yeah, it's Lafayette's been really great. They have a nice scene out there and some good people. So
Indeed, most definitely. Let's see here. I'm kind of under the weather, so I'm trying to
hmm
be well. But I'm glad it's not Corona. I checked all my temperatures and all that good stuff too. So,
okay, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you got to be careful nowadays.
yep, you never know what it is out
Mm-hmm.
there. So, and
Mm-hmm.
you host a weekly open mic at the station on the group name Delete Comedy, which is scrolling on the bottom there on Facebook. How did you come up with the name and what are like the origins and all that good stuff?
So I was not the founder of Delete Comedy. It was I kind of was inherited it, I guess. The I actually don't know how the show originally started. The weekly mic at the station has been going on for probably 16 years or so,
Wow.
and yeah, and it's been past the it's been hosted by a number of different people over those years. But I do think it was called some other name. I think it was like some guy's face where it was like his name and then the word comedy. And then the host at the time, well, this was told to me secondhand, so it could be slightly inaccurate. But I think this is what happened. So the host at the time, Robert Rao, I think he just went over with some duct tape and then just duct taped the word delete over the guy's face, and then that's how it became Delete Comedy. And then yeah, he hosted the mic for a number of years. I feel like at least 5 years or more. Um, and then yeah, since last July or so, I've been a host of it. So
Awesome, fantastic. And
mm.
you're also a member of the Family Dinner Improv Group in Baton Rouge. And how did you link up with those fine folks?
Yeah, so the family dinner, I was aware of them for a while, but it's mostly just because a few of the Baton Rouge stand up comics were also in the family dinner. And then just, I would go to some of the shows and all that, and it was always super fun. And then I was just, watching that. I was like, man, I would love to be up there doing that too. So then just, just kind of on a whim, I started, coming out to a little bit of the practices, and then just went up. Yeah, and it's been super fun. And of course, one of the best parts is that we have Mike Honore as a part of the family dinner, which, yeah, like, Mike is the best ever. You should get his album Splenda Afternoon on iTunes. Shout out to Mike.
Indeed, I love before we got on air, we spoke of Mike Honore and how awesome he is, and I got to listen. Like everyone kept on mentioning to listen to Splendid Afternoon, and that Candyman joke just had me rolling. I was like, this is just pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And I was able to be there for the taping of the show too. So, yeah, no, he's the freaking best.
Absolutely. And so, one for this next portion of this show is the questions I usually ask all the comics that I've interviewed so far on this comedy journalism journey. And so, with that being said, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
Yeah, so it was honestly, like, I've thought about it a lot before. There was no like one particular reason. It was just kind of, I just did it just because I wanted to, basically, just because okay, so in high school I would listen to so much comedy. Like I was saying, I had different comedy Pandora stations. I got up to having like 30 different comedy Pandora stations, just all different types of comics to get a wide range of all that. And then I also found Mitch Hedberg on YouTube, and I just dove into that real hard, and and just loved it to death. And then just once I was in college over in Lafayette, I think it was because I saw this one video by that Jerry Seinfeld did, where he said like how to write a joke, and it's like a little 5-minute video. So he said that he always wrote on a yellow legal pad. He would write out all his thoughts and jokes and stuff. So I just bought a bunch of legal pads, and I just started writing out like every thought I was having, just to like get it all out on paper. And I wrote for probably about 3 months. And then, I found out that singer-songwriter mic was a 15-minute spot. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to write enough that I think is going to fill up 15 minutes. And then I'm going to try it out. But yeah, no, I feel like it was very random that I did it, because like no one in my family does anything directly comedy related. I have some music. Like my dad's very into music, and I performed some different music stuff in high school. But yeah, nothing comedy related. So it was just, I just did it. The first time I did it, I freaking loved it. And yeah, now it instantly became like an obligation to, like, every time a mic was coming up, there's no question of what I was going to be doing that day. I was going to go to the mic, or something would have to come up to prevent me to do that. But if nothing came up, I was just doing comedy. So
Most definitely, indeed. And so we have a lot of some viewers in the audience, and so feel free to jump into the comments if you'd like, and but be nice to us. And the organization said one time Vaughan had to use his expert improv skills to defuse a bomb set to destroy an orphanage as part of a terrorist random plot. So I think that was Morgan Wright, I think.
Yeah, it just may be. Morgan, I told you not to tell them about that.
Okay. Awesome stuff. Most definitely. And what was it feeling like when you first performed stand up?
Oh man, it was something else. Like it was at Artmosphere, which is a bar over in Lafayette, and so like I was saying before, it was a singer-songwriter open mic, and everyone else just had like an acoustic guitar. One person had a keyboard, whatever. And usually when music's playing, people were just talking, having a good time at a bar. So like when I first went up, people were all talking real loud at the back of the room by the bar, all busy and stuff. But the coolest thing is like once I got towards the end of my set, everyone in the whole bar was quiet and paying attention and listening. And I like took a moment. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And that is really my favorite thing about stand up is having moments like that where you can like literally just like take a beat while you're on stage. You just like pause for a beat and then, yeah, and just like really soak it in. And like everyone's just with you. You're all in the same moment. Yeah, and that's the thing that'll always keep me coming back.
Indeed, that stage is it's a. I tried to retire so many times, and that stage always calls you back. And I'm like, people are like, all right, it's an
Mm.
annual tradition here in Florida, so he's gonna come back next year.
Mm. Mm.
And Vaughn, what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Oh man, I mean, pretty much anything with Mitch Hedberg is definitely way up there for me. I know he has strategic grill locations, and I forget the other. I usually just would look up YouTube videos and not specific albums, but I really like Pete Holmes too. He's also great, um, and really just anything that Tom Segura is doing. Like completely normal, mostly stories, just anything. Unless he's talking about Louisiana, then he can, shut up. No, I don't care that much. But I do love that the internet gets mad about it. Um, as if people from Louisiana don't know that they're from Louisiana. It's like we're not perfect over here.
Indeed, awesome. They're having a lot of fun in the chat box. Chelsea Dial says yes, Mitch, and then um, Morgan was like, Vaughn once tried to retire from comedy, but Obama wrote an executive order for Vaughn to never retire. True story. So good stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. Me and Barack were tight. We're very tight.
Most definitely. And a couple of those guys have been on TV as film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
Okay. So just normal show. Like my first favorite show ever was Scrubs. Like I freaking love that show to death. Um, yeah, I mean, give me anything with Zach Braff or Donald Faison, and I will watch the hell out of it. Sketch shows. I was actually just telling my coworker about it today because I feel like not a lot of people know about it, which is a shame. Is Mr. Show, have you watched that before?
I've seen a couple episodes and little bits here and there.
Okay, yeah, it is like that. Yeah, like Mr. Show. It's on HBO. It was a sketch show in the '90s with Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, and even like their comedy troupe was just dynamite because there was a bunch of people that hadn't blown up yet. So you had like, but it's like Brian Posehn and Tom Kenny, who is the voice of SpongeBob, but it's him as a person and not a cartoon. And then even Jack Black was on some of the different episodes. But yeah, that's the show that I think unfortunately has been slept on by a lot of people, but it's still up on HBO. So yeah, and then I'm always watching SNL too. Just the clips. Just that's one of my endless loops of I'll just here's a clip, here's a clip, here's a clip. But yeah, it's all it's all really good stuff.
Indeed. And favorite uh, comedy films?
Um, Man, I really liked. This is just what's coming to mind right now. Was it Loaded Weapon, which is like the parody movie to Lethal Weapon with Emilio Estevez, and I think Samuel L. Jackson was in it too. Yeah, that I don't know why I'm thinking of that one so much right now. That one's ridiculous. Um, and yeah, and then even like Starsky and Hutch was one of my favorite movies when I was growing up. With Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. Um, yeah, and what else? And now I'm just thinking of parody movies right now, like Meet the Spartans and Not Another B Movie. Those are my favorite movies, I swear. But it's just what's coming to mind right now.
Indeed. Morgan yelled out "Eagle" like with a lot of
Oh,
exclamation.
Ego! That's a Scrubs reference.
Indeed. And Chelsea was like, no mention of crashing on HBO.
Oh yeah,
And
no, Crashing is a fantastic show. Yeah, Crashing is really good, and I even really liked Louie. Don't cancel me. Louie was a good show. Unfortunately, all those things happened that he did. But yeah, yeah, and I'm thinking. I was thinking. I mean, I did like Seinfeld. I mean, Seinfeld wasn't one of my favorite shows. But I'm also reminded of the Mulaney show. Like you remember when John Mulaney had that show on Fox that lasted not very long at all, but that was his like Seinfeld thing. And they're just like all like Mulaney sucks. um, yeah, yeah. I mean that's what I can think of right now. But yeah, no, I like a bunch of different things for sure.
indeed, I remember when that. I believe that shit came on after Mad TV, like back in the day, if I'm not mistaken. But John Mulaney's show. Uh,
Hmm.
Airplane is the greatest comedy of all time, Morgan said. Airplane, Vaughn, airplane, Morgan said. So.
Yeah, no, Airplane is fantastic. I don't know if it can beat Police Academy though. I think that's gonna make Morgan mad probably. Uh,
Indeed. Good stuff. And so, if you can go on tour with any comedian locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
on tour with. Man, I would really like to hang out with Theo Vaughn and like go on tour with him. I really like him and like the King and the Sting podcast that him and Brendan Schaub do is fantastic. Um, and I've maybe even more recently been into Andrew Schultz. Um, but yeah, hmm, that's a good question though. It's not something I think about often. Um, hmm, I think Kyle Kinane would probably be way up there too. Yeah, or like Tom Segura. Like they just have such a great energy about them. Yeah, and it's infectious too.
Most definitely. And local comics?
Local comics, well, of course, Morgan, right? Shout outs to the Morganization. Yeah, Mike Honore, of course, Omar Finley, Terrence Delane, and then over in Lafayette, Maggie Shipley is she was my comedy partner in crime. For like we hosted that an open mic over there for about 4 years together. We were co-hosts. Yeah, and Jason Leonard, and then yeah, like even Ken Edwards, Tyler Arsenault, all the people out there, and they know who they are. But I don't want to list everybody's name. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of really great people that I've become great friends with, both in Lafayette and Baton Rouge.
Most definitely. And if you can get roasted by five comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Okay, I would. Okay, pass. I'd have to say Lane Lanya, who he was a New Orleans comic for a while. He's now over in Colorado. But yeah, he's one of my favorite people. But he over the years, he was always a few years ahead of me, so I always kind of he was always a little more ahead of the curve than I was, just at the time. Um, but one time he called me. I brought him up on stage, and then he said like thank your host whatever. And then he called me a Russian baby, or he said that I looked like a Russian baby. And like a good roast, it's so appreciated, because it's like someone who's like really like really looked at you and then like came up with something like that had never been said to you before. But like more well well known people. Like, I would love to see what Don Rickles would say, just because he's the roast master, or well, he's the roast king basically. Yeah, and Jeff Ross, just because I just want to see what they got. Yeah, and I think what's her name? Nikki Glazer is so freaking good at roasting. Um, and then yeah, I'd have to say Theo Vaughn and Brendan Schaub. They do a great They do a lot of roasting segments on their show, so I'd love them to tear me up basically.
It's definitely. And Vaughn, where do you see your comedy journey in the next 5 years?
Man, that's what I've been asking myself for the last 5 years. Yeah, I don't know. It's a balance of well, I have been I've been working for the last year and a half or so. So in the next year or maybe 2 years, I am thinking of, or I'm weighing the option of moving to another city to move to a bigger comedy scene. Potentially, like somewhere like Austin, somewhere in Texas, or even yeah, like just somewhere where there's a bigger scene. Um, but then there's also always the other thought of just like further building out what you have here, and like building up the scene more. Um, and yeah, I basically where I'd like to be is just I'd love to have like an album recorded. I think that would be a great accomplishment. Um, yeah, like have some type of like comedy outlet that or like platform that I can create just to like produce content. I think that would be great too. But yeah, no, it's always those are always like kind of the general directions. I'm trying to like project towards, um, and yeah, and just keep doing it as long as I'm enjoying it too. That's always been my baseline. I've always said I'll stop doing it when I stop enjoying it. And in March, yeah, upcoming this March is going to be 7 years that I've kept doing it. So.
Indeed. And you've done improv and stand up, and which other forms of comedy would it to venture off into, like sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
um, I mean, I've been on a few podcasts. I've really enjoyed every time that I've done that, including this time. This is really great. Um, and I've met with a couple groups of people before, just over the years, to try to put a sketch together, and it's never panned out so far. But I'm still definitely open to doing that. I think that would be um, a really great avenue to explore, because there's just like some ideas that you'll have that it really only works as a sketch. It's not something you can do as a stand-up bit, and then and if you're like in an improv show and then you have a whole thing written, then that's not improv, but yeah, I've never been had too much of like a directing type of itch, I guess you could say. But yeah, I think like getting more into podcasting, and potentially getting with some good people to do some sketch stuff would I would really like to do that.
Awesome. And what is your favorite joke a comic has written?
Ooh, favorite joke. Man, it's a good question. Hmm, favorite joke. I mean, yeah. Right now, I'm just thinking a bunch of different Mitch Hedberg jokes. Like the one where he's saying, I'm gonna mess this up so bad. I'll just say what the joke is about and not like mess up all the wording. But he's just saying that like stoplights, it's very clear that like what the colors mean is that like red is stop, yellow is slow down, and then green is go. And it says that the colors are the opposite for bananas. So it's like green means stop, yellow means go, and then red means where the hell did you get that banana at? But yeah, I just love the way that his mind works so much. Is that he's always looking at like a different angle, or just like being observational, but not based off anything that's happening necessarily. It's just like, but what's just like there, just what's like still, and like no one's really thinking twice about, like he thinks a million times about it. So yeah, just like that line of thinking's always really great. Yeah, and then I also really appreciate people that can do just like fantastic stories on stage, which is like one thing that I love so much about Tom Segura, and like his bikes story that he has. Yeah, no, it's yeah. There's so many great comics that are doing great comedy out there that yeah, it's hard to put one particular pin on the greatest joke, but yeah, those are some of the top ones for me.
Indeed. Morgan says, if carrots got you drunk, rabbits would be up. I didn't want to curse, so I just wanted to censor myself. And Morgan says Mitch was a legend, and I agree wholeheartedly. And
Mhm.
what experience would you like your audiences to take with them after a set is over, Vaughn?
Um, I the one thing I always try to convey, or like the hope I always have for an audience, is just to have a good time. Just not to take things too seriously. Just be able to like get into the show. I usually try to. Most of my material is usually pretty goofy, just dumb. Like I think a lot. I try really hard to be very dumb. Which is and I try to be dumb. Also, like some of my jokes, I try to be dumb in a smart way, which is always weird to think about. But yeah, just like enjoying yourself. That's every time I'm on a show or hosting a show. That's that's what I want to have the audience go away with. Is just having a good time.
Most definitely. And Chelsea says, I miss Mitch so much. I wonder what his comedy would have evolved into if he were still around. And ditto. It would have been amazing to see him last, like, here and now. It'd be pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and like I don't know what he would be like in his 50s. Like the type of comedy stuff. The one thing I would not probably want to hear is like if he ever got political. I don't know if he would. I don't think he would be the person to ever like go political with his comedy. But if he had like his evolution or something, it's just I don't want to hear a Mitch Hedberg Trump joke. Is basically what I'm saying.
Indeed. Most definitely. And Vaughn, for this next portion, since you were nominated by so many guests before you to be my guest, this is like the stand-up speakeasy, the Roaring Twenties, the Prohibition, the secret society of stand-up comics. The only way you can get in is if you get nominated, and so you got to know somebody that knows somebody. And with that being said, Vaughn, which comics out of Louisiana would you like to see on the future episode of the stand-up speakeasy?
Okay. How many names can I throw at you? Because you gotta give me. So you still want like one name or?
As many as you want, because I'm trying to put Louisiana on the map with this.
Okay, yeah. So I'd have to say Seth Hartley. He's great. He just recently started hosting the weekly open mic with me at the station. He's also in the family dinner. Um, yeah, he has just a really strong passion for comedy, which is great because it's always good having high energy people with high energy and like trying to put that energy into the scene because that's not always what's happening with people. I mean, comics. There could be where people are just like, oh, I'm just well, you know how people are, where they're not always being the most positive all the time. Um, but yeah, so Seth is great. I would definitely recommend Terrence Delane, and also Omar Finley. Uh, the two of them, they run the No Show Comedy Group in Baton Rouge, which they do a number of showcases and open mics. Not right now. None of those shows are happening just because everything else is shut down. But that'll be up very soon, I'm sure. And then over in Lafayette, definitely would recommend Maggie Shipley, who I hosted a show with over there. She's one of my favorite people ever. So
Indeed, excellent nominees, and I'll reach out to as many as I can, and hopefully they check out their filtered inboxes and all that good
Mhm.
stuff. And so,
Okay, yeah, and I'll give them a heads up too.
indeed, sweet, good stuff. And for everyone else at home watching, please subscribe or like Delete Comedy on Facebook, follow Vaughn on Twitter, and donate to his Venmo and all that good stuff. Because I'm trying to get you all more followers and likes and put some money in your pockets during this whole pandemic thing. And
Hey, I appreciate it.
indeed. And Vaughn, is there anything else that you'd like to like a final word you'd like to give out to the audience tonight?
Hmm. I would say if some dude is talking to your lady and you are very drunk at the end of an open mic show, don't punch them in the face and then have everybody have that be their problem too. Okay, just don't do that. Once you get into a submission hold and like are going unconscious, don't then spring up and start fighting that same dude again. Okay, it's just not. It's people. It's not what you should do. Okay, this is America. We're trying to be a better America. So yeah, that's if anyone takes anything away, it's to not drunkenly punch. That's all I could say.
Most definitely. You heard Vaughn. Stay sober
Well, you don't
and
have to
don't.
say sober, but
Indeed, just don't fall over unconscious and with the jujitsu and the punches and whatnot.
hmm
UFC is save that for the cage.
hmm
Indeed, Vaughn. Thank you so much for being my guest today, and thank you so much to Morgan and Chelsea for interacting in the live chat. We had a lot of fun with you all too, and thank you all so much for tuning in on the Stand Up Speakeasy, and we'll see you on the next episode. Be well.